Violence isn't defined by chaos. In the eyes of the bull, it's a performance. Amidst the arena, you're not fighting out of survival, but rather being controlled as a spectacle. The crowd roaring in excitement, for all they see is power. But deep within the bull, there is fear that is left unnoticed. The power is merely an illusion that dooms the bull. That same illusion is rooted to the self-destructive nature of the raging bull. In the ring, Jake LaMotta isn't just a boxer, he's a bull. Every punch, every outburst, every round feels like dominance. The uncontrollable, reactive, instinctive nature of this film is much like a bull. Unlike an animal, however, LaMotta chooses to live in a life of violence while being fully capable of restraint. The film was never about strength, but rather a man who exists through violence. The punches he throws are supposed to be left in the ring. Instead, those finishing blows are thrown to his wives, his brother, and his inner circle without any regulatory body. Communication should be used to convey when you're insecure, enraged, paranoid. But for LaMotta, he reverts to what his opponents often listen to. Pressure. Pressure fighting is a high-stakes and high-output style of fighting. LaMotta was known for using this relentless style. Fighters that use this approach often dictated the location and the pace within the ring. They also come forward on the front foot, dismantling their opponent's game plan, and they win over the crowd based on their dominant and controlled look within the ring. However, doing this style can become one-dimensional, leaving yourself open to counters. This style often stops fighters from being able to adapt to different opponents and situations, making the window for more experienced fighters to be able to negate their biggest weapon: control. LaMotta defines his masculinity by having control, which is adjacent to the fundamentals of his fighting style. He creates an image of having toughness and authority over those who challenge him. But once he unravels the gloves, we can see the instability that he possesses. His relationship with his second wife was driven by insecurity. Situations that didn't equate to a real threat would be met with aggression. In LaMotta's eyes, loyalty was distorted within his relationships. This started to alienate him from the people that truly loved him. His relationship with his brother Joey, who was a mediator between negotiations, the mob, and even his own emotions. He tries his best not to let Jake's self-destructive nature follow through fully. Jake's misdirected violence can also be from the power imbalance between him and his brother. Joey operates behind the scenes, handling negotiations, dealing with the mob, and shaping the direction of Jake's career. In many ways, he grants Jake that very control he believes he possesses, but the dependency breeds resentment. Jake doesn't fight his opponents. He fights being controlled. He despises the dependency on Joey. He despises being submitted by the mob. For every punch Jake throws in the ring, it's like he's being pulled by strings. The illusion of control fully shatters once the mob gets involved for LaMotta. In boxing, the fighters are known to be the face, but in reality, there are managers, promoters, coaches, and an influence that dictates the outcome before the first bell even rings. The mob profited off of him. Jake refused to submit to them until it jeopardized his potential of getting a title shot to become world champion. This is a pivotal moment in his career where he realizes he's not in full control. If he refused to cooperate, it would mean that he would potentially never get the title, but also end his boxing career. He must continue whether he agrees with it or not. So he takes on for the loss against his match against Billy Fox. After the match, he's left like a bull. Jake is placed into an arena where the outcome is never entirely his own. The difference is that Jake understands this and still cannot find a way out. His violence is a reaction to the lack of control. No power, just frustration. The mob kept their word and gave Jake a shot at the title against Marcial Cerdan. In a dominant performance, LaMotta beat Cerdan in the 10th round by TKO, becoming the new middleweight champion of the world. This moment was the pinnacle of his career, but it was a continuation of the decline that he was headed for in life. In an outburst shown after the match, he accuses his brother of sleeping with his wife and Vicky of being unfaithful towards him. All of this is accumulated from exchanges shown throughout the film, whether it be Joey hiding from what happened at the club or Vicky making comments of one of Jake's opponents. This led to Vicky saying that she slept with everyone out of pure frustration, not saying the truth because of the pressure put onto her in that very moment. He rushes to Joey's house and officially breaks the bond between the two by brutally beating him up and Vicky in front of his kids and his wife. A bull has no choice. It acts on instinct, fear, and pain. Its violence is natural, while LaMotta's isn't. He is capable of having restraint and being aware of the damage that he has done, but he decides to continue on. Over time, the distinction between instinct and choice begins to disappear. LaMotta doesn't behave like the bull. He embodies it, not because he lacks awareness, but because he refuses to act on it. The only language that he knows is violence. Every bull, no matter how powerful they may seem, eventually meets something more calculated. The infamous 6 fights with Sugar Ray versus LaMotta exposed this lingering truth. Fighters like Sugar Ray didn't fight aggression with aggression. They were precise and studied their opponents. When LaMotta charges the front foot, Robinson steps aside. When LaMotta throws at full force, Robinson responds with timing. When LaMotta believes in the pressure, Robinson understands the distance to keep him at bay. It isn't just a difference in skill, it's a difference in perception. Sugar Ray expressed that he doesn't like boxing and that the idea of 2 people fighting for money thrown at them was barbaric. Compare this mentality to LaMotta's, who used the ring as an extension to let go of pent-up emotions. What LaMotta sees as control, in reality, is him being not only one-dimensional in the ring, but as a person. The raging bull believes it's attacking, but the matador knows it's being led into his defeat. The matador doesn't need to overpower the bull. He simply allows it to reveal itself. And what happens to LaMotta? His pressure, his violence, his need to dominate makes him think he's unstoppable. But that just makes him predictable in the ring. Robinson becomes more than an opponent. He becomes the matador. Not controlling Jake through force, but through understanding his opponent. There is a moment where Jake leans back onto the ropes, drops his guard, and just lets himself be hit. Punch after punch lands. He refuses to go down. On the surface, it looks like toughness, but it's something else entirely. It's a surrender, disguised as strength, because he lacks control. Jake isn't winning in that moment, he's enduring everything. He is actively choosing to endure. The punishment is invited because he feels he deserves it. Like the bull in the arena, still charging even though as it bleeds to death. He continues forward not because he's in control, but because he doesn't know when to stop. The ropes are holding him up, much like the system that's placed around him. The crowd watches, just like they've always have. An exhilarating uproar. He proves he can't be knocked down. But this only shows something deeper. That is his idea of strength. It isn't about winning. It's about how much pain he can endure without breaking apart. The violence becomes internal at this point, where it's a form of validation. LaMotta would rather be severely injured than seen as weak. He can live with losing because in his eyes he was in control of that outcome within that fight. Him saying, "You never got me down, Ray," is a testament that even though all the blood, swelling, and fatigue, LaMotta was still fighting. Down is considered a way out, when the count is an excuse to stay down. What this proves to LaMotta is that he could take so much punishment, but continue fighting. Jake has nothing left to prove in the ring, which his violence continues outside of it. He opens a comedy club, steps into a different stage. A different kind of performance. But the performance doesn't change. The same need for attention, control, and validation follows him. The crowd is still there, but now they aren't watching for dominance. They're watching a man be something that he no longer is. Without the structure of boxing, Jake begins to unravel the gloves even more. His discipline disappears as his body changes. The control he once believed he had fades away. What remains is an emptiness that he constantly seeks through validation, young women, and not so great one-liners. It all comes to a low point when Jake is arrested for essentially prostituting a 14-year-old. He is left alone in a confined space, left with his own thoughts. The aggression that once had rules, rounds, limits, it exists now, but without restriction. There is no referee, and there is no bell. Only Jake and the consequences of everything he has done. In the cell, the illusion fully collapses. No opponent to fight, no audience to perform and hear their cheers. Violence still makes home in his fist when he hits the concrete walls. He breaks down and repeats, "I'm not an animal." That, however, is a major contradiction to his character. Everything in his life eventually points to the truth, but ultimately he doesn't face it fully. In the final moments, LaMotta stands in front of a mirror. He is shadowboxing not with his physical body, but with the image of himself, still convincing himself of something that no longer exists. The crowd is gone. The ring is gone. The act remains. Jake never left the ring. It just happened to be a local comedy bar. From the squared ring and ropes to isolation and reflection, violence wasn't something that LaMotta used, but rather was the only language he understood. Even when no one was listening, he kept speaking. If you made it this far into the video, I appreciate it. This movie, one of the best Scorsese films for sure. I enjoyed this one a lot. And I think it's one of the best depictions of just boxing within its fighting scene specifically. Obviously, it's realistic because it's based on the late LaMotta. But if you enjoyed the video, go ahead, like and subscribe. Let me know. Let me know if y'all like